going to start with something from the Chandogya Upanishad. There is a spirit which is mind and life, light and truth and vast spaces. He contains all works and desires and all perfumes and all tastes. He enfolds the whole universe and in silence is loving to all. This is the spirit that is in my heart, smaller than a grain of rice or a grain of barley or a grain of mustard seed or a grain of canary seed or the kernel of a grain of canary seed. This is the spirit that is in my heart, greater than the earth, greater than the sky, greater than heaven itself, greater than all these worlds. This is the spirit that is in my heart. This is Brahman. If we ask where that spirit is, where Brahman is, the Upanishads tell us he is seen in nature in the wonder of a flash of lightning. The last time I was here was actually a wonderful occasion. Maybe a few of you were here to see Wes and Wendell, Wes Jackson and Wendell Berry, and what an evening that was, and it's such a privilege to be on this stage. So I'm wondering, are there any other farmers in the audience? Well, there's a couple, so we're pretty much representative. It's 1% of the population now, so we've got it right here. So I find hope in that Upanishad piece, and I also find hope in another statement by Lu Xun, and this was used in a wonderful book called Hope's Edge by the Lapés. Hope cannot be said to exist, nor can it be said not to exist. It is just like the roads across the earth, for actually there were no roads to begin with. But when many people pass one way, a road is made. The theologian and cultural historian Thomas Berry says that as a culture, we are in trouble because we do not have a good story. We are between stories, he says, and the old story doesn't work anymore. I believe him when I observe the young people I work with in the fields, disenchanted with the legacy of industrial farming and the relentless pollution of our environment. They have chosen to help build the foundations for an ecological conscience. To invent a new story, Berry counsels, we have to recognize the mystique of the land to counter the industrial mystique, and he emphasizes the need for three commitments: a commitment to the earth, a commitment to what he calls the ecological age, where values that support the environment are ascendant and we recognize our role as stewards and participants, and a commitment to a definition of progress that includes the natural as well as the human world. The industrial mystique is such an obvious force. We are surrounded by the sight and sound of it. But if you need a clearer picture of the mystique of the land, travel to a place beside a river adorned with alders or willows, walk through a stand of spruce or pine, sit for a moment in the silken down under a cottonwood tree, or follow the path of a monarch through a patch of self-seeded milkweed. In early spring, pause under a group of oaks to witness a cloud of pollen grains disperse in the air. Later, in summer, stand under a maple to watch the winged seeds, samaras, that spin out on the wind in search of a place to germinate. Find some common clover in flower and look closely to witness the variety of pollinators, bees, moths, flies, and wasps that travel among the angiosperms, ensuring our food supply. Listen as water filters over stone in a creek bed or at the base of a waterfall. Follow the spray that leads up into the air where a hawk may hover or a kingfisher may glide before slipping into the spruce woods. The land speaks to us through the creatures and plants that inhabit a place, and the stories that germinate like seeds hold a power to sustain our interconnection with other species and life forms. And there's nothing more important than that. For more than 30 years, I've been tending the land, and I remain conscious of all that the word husbandry implies: to manage thriftily, to economize, to cultivate. This also implies doing so in a sustainable way. But what does it really mean to cultivate land using sustainable practices? Wendell Berry, another Berry, writing in the Temenos Academy Review, sees a connection between the fertility cycle, or the building of soil health, and the broader cultural cycle, or the building of community health. Wendell says this: "The problem of sustainability is simple enough to state. It requires that the fertility cycle of birth, growth, maturity, death, and decay, what Albert Howard called the wheel of life, must turn continuously in place so that the law of return is kept and nothing is wasted. For this to happen in the stewardship of humans, there must be a cultural cycle in harmony with the fertility cycle, also continuously turning in place. The cultural cycle is an unending conversation between old people and young people, assuring the survival of local memory, which has, as long as it remains local, the greatest practical urgency and value. This is what is meant and all that can be meant by sustainability. The fertility cycle turns by the law of nature. The cultural cycle turns on affection. The primary motive for good care and good use is always going to be affection, because affection involves us entirely. Across this country, and indeed throughout the world in the realm of agriculture and conservation, there are multiple examples of people working together to create a new story. Collaboration is key to ensuring that the revival of interest we are experiencing now, and what brings you here, continues to build and to become a vibrant web of biodiversity and resilience. Resilience actually means to spring back, and I learned something about that in the place I first learned to garden: the very steep cliff meadows of the Penwith Peninsula in Cornwall, the southwest tip of England. Well, that's me in the garlic, but somewhere in here there are images of Cornwall. I think in the beginning there's a wonderful photo taken by my daughter of the sea in Cornwall, and then the Gateless Gate, what the Buddhists call the Gateless Gate, which is the only way into any field, is to go through that. So I just wanted these images. I'm not going to talk about them specifically. I just wanted them to run. And they show images of the community farm and the people and the seeds that we plant, etc. So in Cornwall, I recognized the meaning of what Aldo Leopold refers to as the oldest task in human history: to live on a piece of land without despoiling it. My mentor was an 80-year-old Cornishman, one Edgar Wallace, who lived in the village, Mousehole. I actually lived in Love Lane Cottage, Mousehole. That was my address, pronounced Mousehole. Edgar was born there in Mousehole, and he tilled potatoes and flowers in those meadows for his entire life. There was an economy of happiness revealed in all of his gestures, and according to the standards of the ruling society, he was merely a laborer. But for me, he was the most intuitive of teachers, because he understood in the fabric of his being what Aldo Leopold was able to express. The land consists of soils, water, plants, and animals, but health is more than a sufficiency of these comments. It is a state of vigorous self-renewal in each of them and in all collectively. It is essential for all of us as individuals and as participants in communities to live and relive that state of vigorous self-renewal. And at least from my point of view, big business motivated by profit is not remotely interested in such a thing. Nor are global corporations who claim that the only way to feed the world is to embrace the next new technology. The incessant drive of industrial agriculture, whose slogan is no risk, no bother, no worry, no wait, has continuously ignored the web of relationships at the heart of farming and taking good care of soil. Sir Albert Howard's classic statement has been quoted over and over again, and it surfaces repeatedly in the writings of Wendell Berry, What we have to address is the whole problem of health and soil, plant, animal, and man as one great subject. The last 75 years of industrial agriculture have led us in the opposite direction. Only very recently have we begun to hear the words food and health joined together in one sentence. Let's keep them joined together. So I have a lot more to say, but there's a sign up saying that I should wind it up. So what I'm going to do is turn to a poem. I'm going to end with a poem. I've been writing poetry for 40 years or more, and I look at the world poetically. There's a statement that says that poetry makes nothing happen, but in my life, it has actually made everything happen. So I'm going to end with this poem. This is called Cerulean. A quick breath above winter grains, the sharp-shinned hawk dives from a locust post to glide over rye and oats. Roots of umbellifera reach into cool clay. Against the dry hedge of wild berry vines and bittersweet, the cerulean flash of a bluebird. This landscape is crisp within earth's spin, not the woven story of leaves, but the bass note of bark. In boxed hives and hollows, Apis mellifera survive on the nectar of aster and goldenrod, transformed and capped in waxen cells, food for the queen of inscape, part of the golden language of renewal. The sun's breath above winter grains lights the hawk's wings, and yes, the wings of workers within the hive. Rye survives the season of frosts, and sky takes on the color of a bluebird. Thank you.